Hey, this is MacHeads 101. My name is Jake, and welcome to your 11th Java GUI tutorial. Now, I know I said in this tutorial I'd be talking about curves and gradient paints and stuff, but I think I'm going to save that for a couple tutorials down the line, because what I want to do now is, in this tutorial and the next few, talk about making graphics move, making them ease to a stop, simulating gravity, collision detection, making them move with the keys, with the mouse, you can drag them, stuff like that. And then I'll come back to lines and gradient paints and things. So how we're going to be doing this is, if you remember in our last tutorial when we drew an oval, we set X and Y coordinates of its top left corner to position it. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting those X and Y coordinates as variables that are going to keep changing with the timer. So first thing first, we have to make a timer t equals new timer, and 5 and this, and right now there is no this because we have not implemented the action listener. Alright, so now we need to make some doubles. Double x, y, and velocity x, just vel x, vel y. X and y are going to be the x and y location. Velocity x and velocity y are going to be the velocities of each of these and what's going to be added each time. So right now I'll just set these equal initially to 0 so it has somewhere to draw it, and then velocity y will equal 2 equals 2, and velocity, yeah, those will equal 2. So now what we want to do is make our public void paint component graphics G super paint component, and I went over all this in the last tutorial, so yeah. And the same thing we're going to do is make the graphics 2D. So now we're going to make our ellipse 2D circle, because it's just going to be a circle, equals ellipse 2D dot double, and in here we're going to put the doubles x, y, and I'll make it 40 by 40. Ellipse 2, yeah, new ellipse 2D dot double. Okay, so now we've set its x and y coordinates, and in here I'm just going to t dot start the timer, and also fill the circle. So that's drawn on the screen. Now all we have left to do is public void paint component. I mean, what am I talking about, paint component? I just made that. Action performed for the action listener. And it takes the action event E. Okay, so what we have to do in here is the two things I said. One, which is change the X and Y coordinates, and 2, which is recall this method, because right now it drew it at 0, 0. And no matter how much I change X and Y, it's not going to move unless I recall this method and it draws it at the new location. And in order to clear the whole thing and then draw it, it's really easy. You just do this. There's a built-in method, repaint. That's all you have to do. So every 5 milliseconds it's going to repaint. And all we have to do now is change the X and Y coordinates. So X plus equals velocity X, and Y plus equals velocity Y. And plus equals just means X equals X plus velocity X. So what's going to happen is we drew it at X and Y. Every 5 milliseconds, because of this timer, X and Y are going to increase by 2, and then it's going to redraw it at the new location. So seems perfect, but there is actually a slight problem that you'll see when I run this. So, and actually I forgot to do this whole thing. Second s equals new second, and then we make a J-frame. Then f dot set visible true. Dot set size, and I'll make it 600 by 400. Alright, and I'll just set title to moving ball. Alright, so now I'm going to run this, and you'll see what the problem is. There you go. It moved, but it moved off screen. Because you can set these x and y coordinates to -3, or if this is 600, I can set it to 700. You can actually set the x and y coordinates to locations that are off screen. So here's how you have to keep them off screen. Every time we call this, we have to put in a little check. If x is less than 0 or x is greater than 560, and the reason I did 560 instead of 600 is because if you remember, it's the top left corner, which means from the top left corner to the edge, there's still 40 in the way. That's the ball. So if I subtract 40, it will make it so it stops it at 40 in, and it stops the how should I explain this? Basically, you have the ball, and at the top left corner to the end of the ball is 40, but the location is only the top left corner, so we have to subtract 40 so it can detect it where we want it to. Alright. Anyway, so if we want to do this, velocity x equals negative velocity x. And if you know anything about velocity, velocity is a vector quantity, meaning it is speed with the component of direction to it. So if the velocity x becomes the opposite, that will reverse direction. So if it hits the edge here, it reverses direction. If it hits the edge here, it reverses direction. We just have to do the same thing for y. If y is less than 0 or y is greater than, and this was 400 down, 360, velocity y equals negative velocity y. Now I'll run it, and you'll see it's bouncing all around. Now, this is what kept it from going off screen, is this little check we put in here that reverses the direction, essentially, if it hits any of these edges. Alright, so in the next tutorial, we're actually going to be moving it around ourselves with the arrow keys. So, thank you for watching MacHeads 101. Subscribe, and goodbye.